Who Killed the Black Dahlia? Revisiting Elizabeth Short's unsolved murder 78 years ago today, and why a retired detective believes his father committed the crime. It's been over 70 years since Hollywood's most infamous unsolved murder took place. In the early hours of January 15, 1947, 22-year-old Elizabeth Short was brutally murdered and then left on the side of the road in an undeveloped Los Angeles neighborhood. Her body had been mutilated and cut in half with surgical precision. Despite the gruesome killing, not a drop of blood was left behind. News of Short's death spread quickly, and before authorities could cordon off the crime scene, reporters swarmed the area. It began an intense period of tabloid press coverage fueled by rumors and inaccurate reporting. The media dubbed Short the Black Dahlia, a nickname inspired by the 1946 film The Blue Dahlia and influenced by Short's rumored penchant for black clothing. The initial investigation into the murder delved into Short's mysterious life, filled with questions about the men she knew and how she lived her life. Hundreds of suspects were considered throughout the Inquisition, and several falsely confessed to the crime. Although the LAPD had leads into Short's death, including handwritten notes from the killer, no one was ever charged. The Black Dahlia remains an unsolved mystery and a case that detectives are still working on today. So who killed the Black Dahlia? Here's everything to know about what happened to Elizabeth Short 78 years after her murder, and where the investigation stands today. Who was Elizabeth Short? Short was born on July 29, 1924, and grew up outside Boston with her parents and 4 sisters, per the Black Dahlia, Shattered Dreams. When she was 6 years old, her father lost the family's savings following the 1929 stock market crash and mysteriously disappeared. His car was later found abandoned on the Charlestown Bridge, where he was believed to have died by suicide. After dealing with a respiratory condition and undergoing surgery, a 16-year-old Short began spending winters in Florida with family friends, per a doctor's recommendation who believed the milder climate would help improve her health. Eventually, Short dropped out of high school and regularly visited her loved ones. In 1942, Short's mother received an apology letter from her husband, who had been presumed deceased for over a decade, according to Shattered Dreams. In the note, he said that he had begun a new life in Northern California. Soon after, when Short was 18, she decided to join him, but it was short-lived and she moved out in early 1943. Later that year, she relocated to Santa Barbara but ended up being arrested for underage drinking and was sent home to her mother. Short again moved to Florida for a while before returning to LA to reportedly pursue her dreams of acting. Less than 6 months later, she would be dead. What happened in the time leading up to Elizabeth Short's murder? Over the last 6 months of her life in LA, Short is said to have lived in multiple places across the city while working various jobs. Several men have since recalled enjoying Short's company, taking her on dates and offering her gifts. She struggled financially but always seemed to come up with money for rent and other necessities. Miss Short's life in Hollywood seemed to follow a pattern. She didn't have any visible signs of employment. She'd be broke, and then suddenly have some money. Former police officer Vince Carter said in Shattered Dreams. He continued, her roommates, the bartenders, and the hotel clerks all came up with the same story. She was secretive, never one to confide. She never said what she was really doing, or who she was really going out with, or where she was really going. In December 1946, just weeks before her murder, Short left LA for San Diego. She allegedly told friends that she was scared but didn't explain why and immediately moved. When Short arrived in San Diego, she met another young woman named Dorothy French, who allowed her to stay with her family. During her time with them, Short admitted she was hiding from an ex-boyfriend out of fear, per Black Dahlia Avenger, a genius murder. French revealed that several weeks into Short's stay, 2 men and a woman came to the home looking for her. Upon hearing about the visitors, Short became very frightened and panicky, refusing to see them. They eventually left, and she decided to relocate. According to Shattered Dreams, Short departed on January 8 with a traveling salesman she had been seeing. They drove back to LA together, and he dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel, where she claimed to be meeting her sister. Short's sibling Virginia later told authorities they hadn't arranged to see each other. Hotel employees recounted seeing Short make several telephone calls in the lobby that evening, growing increasingly frantic. She finally departed the hotel around 10 p.m., and it was the last confirmed time she was seen alive. The next few days of Short's life leading up to her murder have been shrouded in some degree of mystery. Her exact whereabouts are unknown, aside from sporadic sightings and an alleged encounter with Officer Mo McBride, who claimed to have seen Short on January 14, just hours before she was found dead. According to Black Dahlia Avenger, McBride told authorities that the woman, believed to be Short, approached her, sobbing in terror, and claimed that someone threatened to kill her. Short appeared too shaken up to return to a bar she had been in to retrieve her purse, so McBride accompanied her. By then, the man was gone and McBride left Short's side. Later, McBride saw Short exiting the same bar with two men and a woman, and the officer checked in on her. Although she appeared to be fine at the time, Short was murdered hours later. Who discovered Elizabeth Short after she was murdered? On the morning of January 15, 1947, Short's body was discovered by a young mother on a walk with her child through Limert Park, an LA neighborhood that was largely undeveloped at the time. Noticing the body from afar, the woman first believed it to be a mannequin, per the FBI, due to the contorted position of the limbs. As she approached the grassy area on the side of the road, she found something much more horrific. Short's naked body had been severed at the waist with surgical precision. Though internal organs were removed, the extensively mutilated corpse had been drained of blood, indicating that Short had been killed elsewhere. Her face was also bruised and cut, with a grisly slash running from each side of her mouth. When the coroner later examined the body, he ruled that the cause of death was due to hemorrhaging from the lacerations to Short's face and the shock from the repeated strikes to her head, according to Severed, the true story of the Black Dahlia. How was Elizabeth Short's body identified? When police arrived at the scene of the crime, they had no idea about the identity of the mysterious young woman. Being so disfigured, authorities knew that they would be unable to share photos of the body with the public. Instead, they took her fingerprints and allowed an artist from the Los Angeles Examiner to sketch a recreation of the unidentified woman, per the Black Dahlia.